The typical opinions that people have about video games and those who play them are that they are all violent, they are addictive, they are only played by teenage boys, they cause violence, they make players antisocial, and that they make us unhealthy. These 6 points were discussed in the Week 4 lecture with Stephen Harrington. However, relevant statistics show that these points are in fact false. This Week 4 lecture with Stephen Harrington proved that the actual average age of an Australian gamer is 32 years old. The percentage of gamers over the age of 18 is 76%, and the percentage of gamers who are female is 47%. These 3 facts therefore make the statement all video games are played by teenage boys false. The lecture also proved that 68% of games are classified either G or PG, and that the most popular game type among male Australian gamers is puzzles. This shows that the number of video games which are not violent and do not involve bad behaviour is significantly high. One of the biggest and most common opinions people have of video games is that they make people who play them antisocial. A comment made by Garrett Cox stated, "Get a life, get a girlfriend, play some sport, go for a beer with mates. The idea of a grown man spending his weekend sitting in a dark room in pyjamas playing video games is sad." However, statistics provided by Stephen Harrington show that the number one reason gamers aged 16 to 25 play video games is for social reasons. This idea that people who play video games are antisocial and sit in a dark room for hours on end by themselves is completely from the truth. An article on the Entertainment Software Association website shows that 62% of gamers play games with others, either online or in person. Of those, 77% play with others at least 1 hour per week. A majority of gamers play games with their friends or family members. 16% play with parents, 42% play with friends, 16% play with their spouse or significant other, and 32% play with other family members. In a 2010 report posted by the Critical Gaming Project website, credible real-world evidence demonstrates the fallacy of linking games and violence. The report showed statistics that violent crime, particularly among the young, has decreased dramatically since the early 1990s. During the same period of time, video games have steadily increased in popularity and use, exactly the opposite of what one would expect if there were a causal link. Many games with violent content sold in the US, and some with far more violence, are also sold in foreign markets. However, the level of violent crime in these foreign markets is considerably lower than that in the US, suggesting that influences such as the background of the individual, the availability of guns, and other factors are more relevant to understanding the cause of any particular crime. They continue in the report that numerous authorities, including the US Surgeon General, the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, and several US district courts, have examined the scientific record and found that it does not establish any causal link between violent programming and violent behaviour. In the Week 2 lecture, Stephen Harrington states that attitudes towards women and minority groups are constantly improving and that people are smarter than ever, suggesting that video games do not condone people to treat women with disrespect, nor do they dumb people down. In an article by Scott Cunningham, Benjamin Engelstadter, and Michael Ward on understanding the effects of violent games on violent crimes, they state that a 1% increase in violent games is associated with up to a 0.3% decrease in violent crime, therefore having no effect on crime rates. Tom Chatfield, from the Huffington Post, wrote an article which was influenced by a TED speaker. He states in his article that video games are a special kind of play, but at root they're about the same things as other games, embracing particular rules and restrictions in order to develop skills and experience rewards. He continues that when a game is well designed, it's the balance between these factors that engages people on a fundamental level. Play precedes civilization. It spans continents and generations. It's how we naturally learn the most basic mechanical and social skills, and how, at its best, we can build a safe space for discovering more about ourselves. So, is media bad for society? As Stephen Harrington states in his Week 2 lecture, of course media does have significant effects, but they are complex, subtle, and often counterintuitive.